They're quirky and they're a little bit strange, but like nothing more than rooting around for a juicy bulb. But they're being persecuted by humankind for their quills to make fashionable items for our homes and places of entertainment. Join us for the Porcupine Report as we learn about the problems, the solutions, and the people who are making a difference.
She's traveling through the wild, she's searching for the truth. A true nature's child, she's gonna find the proof. Picking up the trail, she's gonna find the answers. She's gonna tell the tale, she's gonna tell the tale. Keep it wild, keep it free. This could be our last chance to see.
Our location this week is known as the bulb and flower capital of the world. Niewoudville lies in the Porcupine Plateau, a fertile mix of Cape Fynbos, Hamtan-Karoo and Kanarisvlakte, all exceptionally rich in geophytes, making it a Garden of Eden for porcupines. We're off to meet Christy Bragg with a special package in hand. She's a researcher who's gathering porcupine behavioral information to find a solution to the human conflict these rodents are facing.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Welcome to Niewoudville.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
I have a special delivery for Christy Bragg and the porcupine.
Oh, that's wonderful.
With the help of technology, Christy is able to learn more about the secret lives of these quirky creatures. At the fore of the Porcupine Report is the havoc that these creatures can wreak on cultivated land, from destroying crops to infrastructure. Not to mention the fact that their beautiful quills have now become a primary fashion accessory. Here on this farm in Niewoudville, the porcupines find refuge. They're free-ranging, and they absolutely adore geophytes. A geophyte is a clever plant that is able to store nutrient in the shape of a fat-bellied bulb. Christy chooses to live in Niewoudville so that she can be close to her research animals.
Well, I chose to live in Niewoudville because the porcupines here are incredibly numerous. There are so many of them, more than in any other arid landscape, possibly in the whole world. And the reason is for this is simply because there are so many geophytes in this landscape. It's a veritable salad bowl of food for porcupines. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare porcupines, what they're doing here in this landscape, to the Kalahari, which is a much more desert landscape, to the Karoo, which has not so many geophytes, and in Franschhoek as well.
With her picnic basket brimming with delicious bulbs, we're heading for porcupine territory, the open Bokkerveld Plains. Christy, you call them the eco-engineers of the bush. Why?
Well, porcupines are what we call an ecosystem engineer. It's actually a scientific term for an animal that changes or modifies the landscape in some way to actually create nutrients for other animals. So how it does this, it digs a little hole. For example, we've got a hole here where a porcupine is dug, and in this hole, soil from all around here will collect in here, nice nutrient-rich topsoil. Nutrients, organic matter such as these dead bits of grass, and water and seeds will collect in here, and these actually provide very fertile little oases for plants to grow and generate in.
Porcupines are vegetarians, but they also need a certain percentage of calcium, don't they?
Yes, that is correct, they do. What they actually do is they take to their burrows. You'll often see outside burrows, they have bones. You see skulls and things, and you think, oh, maybe the porcupine's actually a carnivore. But it's actually not. It's actually chewing these bones to prevent their teeth from growing, for one thing, because they're rodents and their teeth are always growing. And for another thing is to get the calcium. They need that certain element of calcium in their diet. Okay, I've got some samples here of what a porcupine would find a gourmet delight. Obviously, we have our ubiquitous millie, and porcupine loves this. Favorite food. If I want to set a trap, this is what will catch a porcupine. Then the sweet potato is also something I will bait a trap with. If I want to catch a porcupine, a millie and a sweet potato do wonders. And then we have some natural wonders. This is a lotinonus. Now you can see it's rock hard. So porcupines don't naturally really like this, but because it's got a certain element of moisture in, especially in summer, they'll dig these up and have a gnaw on them. And you can see here, a porcupine is actually more gnawed on that. We've got some wonderful corms, which are basically very hard, dense, energy-rich bulb types. And we can see this one here, it's a Mireia odorata. It's also called tulp in Afrikaans. Farmers know it because it's very poisonous. It actually can kill a full-grown sheep.
Not a porcupine.
Not a porcupine. Porcupines seem to have adapted very well to digest some of these toxins in these geophytes. That's also one reason that a porcupine is actually good on your farm, because they're eating the dangerous toxic bulbs that would ordinarily kill your sheep.
Christy, what were to happen to the ecosystem if we lost porcupines entirely?
Well, it's a hard one to predict, but I'd say one of the major problems will be a loss in biodiversity, especially the diversity of your geophyte species. And that is exactly one of the focuses of my PhD project, is to find out what would happen if you would lose the porcupine. How would the ecosystem change? What services would you lose?
Porcupines play a vital role in natural soil management and seed dispersal. We're going to collar a porcupine to explore exactly how they impact on the land.
She's searching for the truth, a true nature's child.
Setting the research traps is ecologist Simon Todd. You can hear how quiet and silent it is. At 7:30 p.m, which is perfect. This is the time to bait the traps because porcupines are active at night. And Simon and Christy are putting out delicious vegetable kebabs. There's pumpkin, there's millies, and they know that there's a solitary porcupine in this area. So let's hope we get the chance to see him. Porcupines have a keen sense of smell, especially for veggie delicacies. With the traps set, their favorite foods are also scattered near the traps to lure them closer. Christy, the kebabs look delicious. Why do you present them in that way?
Well, we actually tried baiting a trap yesterday, and we had just a mini loose like this. And the porcupine came round the trap, ignored the entrance, and it took his little paw and pulled the mealy out and ate it outside the trap. So basically, if we keep this food in here and make it really nice, juicy little kebab, as you say, a veggie kebab, it's much more likely to entice the porcupine to come in and make sure it stands on the trap, on the little plate, and then it will be captured properly, so that we can come and collar it tonight.
Porcupines are territorial, and Christy knows there's an active burrow close by. She also has 5 other collared porcupines on the farm that she monitors. It's a dark night, perfect for porcupine activity. Trapping is a patient task. A few hours later, a porcupine has picked up the trail of irresistible veggie smells and, being led by the nose, wanders right into the trap.
Okay, we're using xylitol.
Our vet, Dr. Malcolm McFarlane, prepares the tranquilizer while Christy gathers her notes and the new GPS collar.
Right, let's go.
Everything happens fast as we head for the trap. We don't want to keep the porcupine caged longer than necessary. If we have a look at the porcupine's breathing, it is a little bit shallow, but we don't want to stress him out. And that's why we're going to be as calm as possible in his presence as we wait for Dr. Mac to come and give him the shot. Being in the cage doesn't harm the porcupine. In fact, the small cage holds it tightly so it can't move around and hurt itself. It's a snug but short confinement.
Let's wait now. You just time that, Christy.
If you have a listen to that sound that you're hearing, it's that sound are the tail quills. Those quills are hollow, and they rattle against each other as a warning sign to say, go away. The sharp spines and quills come off very easily, but just like hair, they grow back fast. Dr. Mac, was that successful?
I think so. We'll have to see. We'll wait for 5 minutes and we'll see if there's any reaction on him.
As Christy watches the porcupine closely for signs of distress, the countdown starts. Every porcupine sighting is carefully recorded, and the biodiversity facilitators that work with Christy waste no time gathering data and making notes about their observations.
It's 5 minutes now. We should have an idea. Can I go up and have a look?
Yeah. It's been a long night already, and we're only getting started.
He's got a deformed ear. Look here. Something's caught his ear. You sure you didn't notch it before? I think we can take him out now. Let's just see.
The porcupine's carefully taken out of the trap so that neither it nor us humans are hurt. Those spines are very sharp and dirty and stick into our flesh very easily. The porcupine's not completely tranquilized, just sedated enough to be docile for us to work on.
Okay, let me watch the breathing here a sec. Heart rate's good. Okay, let's get that mat. Have we got the mat? Okay, let's just pick him up gently. Okay, Chrissy.
Porcupines are sturdy rodents, but they don't breed like their distant cousins, the rat. These creatures are monogamous, mating for life with a much slower reproductive cycle.
Can you pop this in quickly, huh? Okay.
The ointment protects eyes from dirt and dust. Porcupines are short-sighted and have small eyes. Compare this to their big, flexible nose. They make up for bad eyesight with an acute sense of smell. They have typical rodent teeth, which keep growing, and porcupines keep them in check by gnawing bones, which are often seen scattered around the entrance to their burrows.
You're going to lie him down on the mat.
Weighing porcupines is part of Christy's ongoing data collection. The porcupines here in Niewoudville tend to be much heavier than those she's working with in other areas. Must be those juicy Bockerfeld bulbs.
You go ahead with the strap. I'm going to take an ear notch.
While the porcupine's new GPS collar's being measured and fitted, an ear notch is taken. This is not only for identification, but also for medical research purposes.
Yes, I'm just DNA testing. I'll put it into this bottle. We'll put preservative of that just now. And then where it's bleeding here, I'm going to take, they wanted some blood smears taken for any parasite analysis.
The body is covered with flat, bristly hair with a long neck crest and sharp, patterned back quills. Beautiful, but sadly and wrongly being stripped for fashionable decor objects and souvenirs.
Christy, what are you measuring for?
I'm measuring all the different dimensions of the porcupine, just to get an idea if porcupines differ across the country from one side to the other. Because I have a feeling that the porcupines here are much bigger than the ones in the savannah, probably because of the amount of geophytes that they have to eat here. Yeah, I think that's
29.
it's more like 29, yeah. Okay, so 29 centimeters. Thank you. Let me stick this back here. Shoulder height from sole of paw to top.
Porcupines have strong feet that are perfect for digging. They have 5 clawed toes on the front and the back, with one front toe just a small clawless stump. The feet are softly padded, and porcupine tracks look very similar to those of the honey badger, except they leave a trail of drag marks where their tail quills brush the ground as they walk.
Porcupines are undeniably the largest rodent in southern Africa. And contrary to popular belief, they don't shoot their quills at you. What they do is they step back, they reverse backwards very quickly into the predator. And then those quills release, almost like jabs into the skin of whoever it is that they want to affront.
While the porcupine's well-being is constantly monitored, some final modifications are being made to the collar to make it more comfortable.
This is not just a radio collar, it's a GPS collar. Using connections with satellite, we are able to get within 5 meters of the animal. The radio collar is not as accurate. It only allows approximately 100 meters.
Finally, the collar's ready to go on. It's slipped just under that lovely long crest of hair. It's important for the collar to be fitted correctly so that it doesn't chafe or hurt the porcupine or slip off. These collars are expensive, so we don't want the porcupine to lose it. The collars help Christy tremendously in her research, not only to find the porks, but also to be able to track their movements constantly.
Ready? Yeah.
I'm just making sure that the edge of the collar here is soft and goes slightly up and away from the porcupine's skin to make sure that it doesn't rub against it and damage its skin.
An incredible moment for you because
Okay,
now you're going to be
ready?
able
Yeah.
to track
That
them.
should be
Yes,
solid.
yes,
That
I'm
should
so
be
excited, especially with the
That worked
porcupine,
well.
with the collar
One more
on,
pop,
to see
Ruben?
exactly where it's going in the landscape, what's happening. It'll be great to see the data tomorrow night, where she's going.
Thank you.
What's the criteria that you use when you're choosing a collar?
Because a porcupine is a very funny shape, we have to choose a collar that fits nicely between the crest and the rest of the quills, doesn't chafe the skin, and furthermore, the tracking device that we use has to be very accurate. So if I use radio tracking, it won't give me as good accuracy, especially as animals are very close to the ground. Using GPS technology, you're using satellites to track the animal, you get under 5-meter accuracy.
Christy, what do you believe is the solution between agriculture and porcupines?
It's not an easy one to answer because it is a vast problem. And I do understand farmers' perspectives because porcupines do damage on farms. So what solution? I think would be a multifaceted solution. You'd have to come at it from an angle that you have to raise awareness that porcupines do play a very important role in the ecosystem and actually can benefit farmers in different ways. You also need to spread the word that we can maybe find ways, innovative ways to mitigate the damage porcupines cause on farms. And I think it is a matter of changing the perception of how people view porcupines. Just give them a different, quirky look at them. They are very unique animals in this ecosystem.
Christy, what effect do you think that the porcupine quill report will have?
I think it's going to have a very wide-reaching effect because it's going to start making people sit up and think, okay, is this quill industry actually impacting porcupines? And it is a very high possibility that it is starting to negatively impact porcupine populations. And it's something we need to be aware of, something we need to have scientific data to find out if it's sustainable, what's happening to populations out there, how widespread is this industry. And we need to bring this back to earth. We need to find out what's happening with porcupines. We can't just ignore the situation. So I think the report is going to be a fantastic way to raise awareness, yes.
Our newly collared porcupine